Hi everybody, it's Debbie McCormack here from the Cyber Scheme, and I'm here today with Michael Raisbeck, who is Cybersecurity Manager at Blue Frontier. And Michael has very kindly agreed to join us today to talk about his experience of achieving a professional title at practitioner level. Welcome, Michael. Thank you for joining me today. I just wanted to start off by saying you are one of the early adopters for embracing the practitioner level. When we first started assessing people for a professional title, only chartered and principal were available, and we've recently expanded that to practitioner to embrace those people who are, we describe it as sort of mid-career, those people that are aspiring to get a chartered status in the future, but very much want to be recognised for the experience that they've had and for what they're bringing to the industry, and to have their professional competence measured at the level that is appropriate to the amount of time that they've been in industry. So hi, Michael. Just wanted to start off by saying congratulations, because you are one of the first people to have achieved practitioner title with us, and just get your thoughts about maybe what drove you to decide to get that title in the first place.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's lovely to be here. So what brought me onto the scheme was, I think Sean reached out originally and said they were running a pilot for the scheme, and when he reached out, I thought, well, this is probably a good thing to get on the forefront of. And I could see, if the council's been created, that this is probably the way the industry's going to go in terms of proving competency. A certification sort of proves you can remember to do it on the day, but the professional conversation and the sort of additional elements of the scheme draw out a bit more experience. I think that prove a bit more credibility. You've had someone sort of say, yeah, they passed it, but we've verified they're actually a competent individual, was the main thing. And
industry standard, isn't it? It's regulating. I think one of the ideas when the council was stood up in the first place was to regulate what is a bit of a wild west industry still out there sometimes. You know, there's so many different certs and training providers and different routes into the industry, and there's so many specialisms once you get into it. It's a big task they've got ahead of them, but like you say, you're involved in the pilot. You've come through as one of the first people at practitioner level, and once you'd made that decision, what was the next point? Did you sort of download the application form and have a good go through it, or what was your approach to it?
The approach, when I looked at it and how Sean explained it, I thought there's the written part, which I think we talked about at other points. I found that stressful because I don't like writing, even though I write very well. It's not a skill I particularly enjoy. But then I thought, well, there's the conversation element, and that really helps. I think neurodiverse people draw out experience where they can't articulate that very well in words. So I got downloaded the initial application and spent significantly more time than I would like to admit filling it in, trying to get across what I'd achieved, not just in my career as a cybersecurity professional, but I'd had other sort of conjoining industries that all brought value to where I've got now. And then the professional talk that I had with Alex was just a really, really friendly conversation. He framed questions in the right way, he framed them easier sometimes than the application. And I think that's much easier to do with words than it is with writing, especially when you've got, I wouldn't say different reading abilities, but you can misconstrue written words sometimes, where with tone and empathy within a conversation, it really made the process a lot less stressful.
You made a good point there, actually, about how we are assessing competency and that individual against the standard, obviously, that's been provided by the council. But it's not just about specific projects that you've worked on, specific experiences that you can bring. It's also about how you as a person approach things with an ethical bias, whether you've got the ability to talk about you know, your approach to mentoring and education, and the fact that you're still learning, but you've also got the ability to give back, and all of that is transferable skills. Essentially, you've come from a military background. A lot of the experience that you would have had is very, very relevant to a conversation and to an application for someone coming in at the practitioner. We don't just want to hear about what you're doing in the role that you're in right now. We want to hear about you as a cybersecurity professional, and from what you've said, the discussion drew out a lot more than that about that from you than the application itself.
Yeah, Alex was able to frame questions in just a very friendly, polite way that made me remember things that I'd forgot at the time because I was actually initially quite stressed. Just the way I read things and the way I deal with applications is it's always a problem. Then I get into it and it's not a problem. It's my how my brain works and making it more of an issue than it is. But yeah, Alex definitely drew out more experiences. He asked subtle questions which reignited old thoughts and old things I'd done that I just forgot about. And it was more, well, let me put the words right. It was easier to articulate my experience and have that conversation, how it flowed, and it was a much more pleasant experience. And let's say I hadn't, well, Sean said I'd done excellent in my written assessment, but let's say I hadn't, I think the conversation would have really drawn out my level of experience better than the written word.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, we're not going to say on the application, oh, you don't need to take this too seriously if you're going to go down the interview route. But essentially,
No, it's
that
a
is what we
tool to
mean.
draw out
Yeah.
the written word where potentially you can't articulate as well as you can with words. So it's more of a like when you have a PowerPoint with some bullet points on, it helps you draw out that subject in a much more detail if you're a not a confident writer, let's say.
And did you find the experience? You said you were a bit nervous to start with, but once you got into it and got into the flow and realized that it's more of a two-way conversation rather than an interview process, did you find
Yeah,
that enjoyable? Did you what was your takeout from that?
I did find it enjoyable, and I think there was a lot of nerves and trepidation. I was like, what happens if I fail? What happens if my experience is dismissed? There's a lot of sort of imposter syndrome and self-doubt that creeps into these types of applications. But it was very collaborative. I got the opportunity to explain and uh, and put it down in words as well. It was more enjoyable than I expected, and it wasn't a hassle like I expected it to be.
We've touched on the idea and mentioned earlier about this sort of alphabet soup of certifications and training
Hmm.
and routes into the industry. And obviously at the practitioner level, still a lot of people are still finding their feet. They may have come through, it may be their first or second job. They may still be deciding on a specialism that they want to go into particularly. They're still making big decisions about their career. What do you think having a professional title does to enhance their career path on top of getting any technical certs that they may be getting?
So, like with any other industry where you have an accreditation, like a chartered manager or whatever that may be, it really does hold value with clients. I've already had conversations where they've asked what the PraCSP means at the end, and I said, "Oh, I'm registered as part of the UK Cyber Security Council." You can sort of see them looking at their checklist of how they prove competency and how they get someone on board. It's a validation to them as well as having the certification. You're part of a body, and it really proves as well to them that you're keeping on top because you generally for these sort of titles, regardless of industry. You've got to do CPD, you've got to be involved, and it's showing someone with a commitment to that industry is how I see
Yeah,
it the most. And I think clients who are in them sort of industries understand. Like when I go to accountancy firms and they're all various levels of accountants, they understand themselves. And again, it's they can see that when you come in and they're like, oh well, he's like us. There'll be some
yeah.
sort of competency there because he's been accredited by an organisation. Yeah, that's
And
really where I see the value.
that's very much where the council position themselves. We go out and talk on their behalf quite a lot about how we're gaining some equivalency now with other industries such as law, such as accountancy, even industries such as medicine, which are highly regulated. There is a route in. You can't be a surgeon without having taken several steps to get there. Whereas up until recently with cybersecurity, there wasn't any regulation and there wasn't an approved pathway. And I think you're absolutely right that it's not going to happen overnight, but the idea is that that regulation will provide assurance for clients that these people truly do have the competency that they're looking for. It does have a knock-on effect as well when you go to careers advisors at school. We all know that there's a drop-off in STEM subjects at school, and we also see a drop-off in those people choosing to do cyber as a profession. I think the regulation will help that. The parents will see that it's a regulated career, much as a lawyer or an accountant is, and say, okay, I can see that you've got, you know, you enjoy this area. I agree that it's a good field to go into. Whereas I think this image of hackers in hoodies in dark rooms is something that we're all trying to get rid of at the moment, and professionalisation can only help with that.
Yeah, no, I fundamentally agree. And it gives you a little bit of pride, really, when you achieve something like that. It is a professional recognition throughout the entire industry and within the UK. And I believe that obviously the Privy Council sort of look after that, so it's well thought out, and it's going to add. I believe it will add significant value to the industry.
Great. Well, that's great to hear you say that, because that's what we fundamentally believe at the Cyber Scheme. Just to sort of finish off, thank you for your talk. It's been really insightful. But as someone talking to maybe people that are thinking that they might come and do a professional title, they're still having a bit of doubt, they're not really sure about whether they should go down this route. Have you got any sort of words of wisdom, having come through the process and come out the other side, that you could impart for people that are trying to decide what to do?
So I think in terms of the application, do it in smaller chunks. I tried to smash it out over an entire day, where I probably should have taken it in smaller chunks and just did 2 or 3 questions a day, and then really allowed my brain to think about the experience that I could jot down. And it really shouldn't be a stressful process. It's just remembering what you've done sometimes that meets the criteria to explain your professionalism. The conversation was definitely the interview part. It's not really an interview; it is a conversation. Definitely helped me calm down and feel a bit more relaxed about the process. But in terms of taking the accreditation, 100% you should be looking at doing it. I think really in 4 or 5 years' time, there'll be such a demand for it that you could preclude yourself from contracts or work by not having said title, because that will be the benchmark of competency, I believe, within the next 5 years.
Yeah,
And I
that's
think
definitely the
getting on
intention.
board is
Yeah,
definitely a
get
good
in
thing.
there early, be an early adopter, be one of those people that's come through the process. And obviously for you now, you will make the decision about, I'm assuming this actually, I don't know this for sure, but maybe going down the principal route and getting chartered status eventually, and showing that progress within the industry.
So that will be my next route. And I think the reason I didn't go to principal or chartered straight away, because was that fear at the start, the trepidation. I was like, I've been offered the practitioner one. I'll go for that and just see how we're doing. Sort of dip my toes in the water, but now I dip my toes in. I thought I should have went for the higher one, but that will be the goal a little bit later down the line, depending on where the business takes me internally, depending on what my focus is. But I definitely want to get more into. I split my 50% testing and 50% on governance, compliance,
Okay.
consultancy, whatever that may be.
Hmm.
But yeah, I definitely want to hit my CTL by the end of next year, really.
Fantastic. Well, that's good news. Well, good luck with that. And thank you ever so much for joining me today. I will be posting this video on YouTube, and hopefully getting as many people as I can to have a look at it, who are making that decision about whether to take a professional title. So thank you very much for your time today.
You're very welcome.